You've tuned in to the chipsgrooveradio podcast with hosts Mike and Jon. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chips Groove podcast. I am your host, Mike, and with me, as always, is Jon. How are you doing today, Jon?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right, especially because of this soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Just got done listening to it, I think, a third or fourth time, so it's exciting for me. We are talking, of course, about Command & Conquer Red Alert by the great Frank Klepacki. He composed this soundtrack as well as so many others. But he was the mainstay composer for Westwood Studios, if you know who they are, listeners. And now he works at Petroglyph. Yeah,
one of the main developers of, and probably one of the main companies that brought forth the RTS game. Them and Blizzard are probably the two monoliths when it comes to RTS games.
Definitely. So Frank Klepacki, to me, he's a virtuoso. I'm just going to call him that for music writing. He can do just about everything. He plays so many instruments, and he's one of those go-getter kind of learning. He's a real hands-on guy. But as I stated, we are covering the 1996 Command & Conquer Red Alert game. Anyone who knows real-time strategy, it is a style of video game that sees you as the commander of various forces from on high. You use the mouse to select units, move them, tell them to defend or attack, all while building and upgrading a base of operations. Command & Conquer was really the A tier of this genre in the 90s. I don't think anyone can argue that.
No. I would imagine so.
Warcraft did come close. And then eventually StarCraft, but
yeah, the Warcraft and StarCraft, they're on the same or similar levels to Command & Conquer, but I think Command & Conquer and Westwood in general had more to do with the innovation of RTS as a genre than StarCraft. I think that was more of a refinement of what already came forward.
Yeah, they started with Dune 2, and they kind of progressed from there. Dune 2 is really considered to be, at least that I've read and heard over the years, the grandfather of RTS games. I'm not saying it's the first, but it's the first of that really focused, action-packed RTS game.
Yep.
And then Command & Conquer just kind of elaborated on that. So, a brief history about the game. And Jon, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of these counts. It's another one of those what-if scenarios that we, especially game developers, like to dabble in. In this case, Albert Einstein discovers time travel and uses it to eradicate Hitler from existence. But this only really changes the future into where Joseph Stalin rises to power, and it begins a chain of events where the USSR invades and takes control of other countries, forcing Western Europe and Germany to unite as the allied nations to combat them. And like any good RTS game, it has multiple ways to go. Missions coming with unique sets of goals and fail states.
Yeah, and it's a departure from their first game. It was kind of interesting that, Command & Conquer came out, and it was a bit of a near future war between the Global Defense Initiative and NOD, the Brotherhood of NOD, which is like a amorphous evil organization. Yeah. And they then, instead of making a sequel to that game, the sequel is more of a weird prequel, but not really.
They chose not to go direct sequel. They kind of went side story.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And the fact that the game kind of takes place in this Cold War right after, there's no real World War II, but right after when World War II would have happened, as opposed to a more futuristic game. It's kind of a crazy leap to make as a company after a successful game like Command & Conquer.
Yeah, it's a daring move because, the Command & Conquer was successful, like you're saying, and then to kind of follow it up with something that's a little more experimental
Yeah.
It's quite a choice, but it worked out because it's probably more fondly remembered than any other title in the series.
I think Red Alert is probably the most notable RTS because it Command and Conquer for it being one of the first RTSs had its flaws, had its problems, and Red Alert was really the first like modern RTS. You think of a modern RTS, and Red Alert probably has all the features that you're kind of looking for. And it's also interesting that Frank was able to go from Command and Conquer, which was a bit more industrial techno rock, into Red Alert, which was had some of that rock and techno, but went straight into funk, which is an odd choice for a military real-time strategy game. But it works.
I make that note where it's like, I think this is in my final thoughts, but I'll just say it here. It's like, that's an interesting choice for a game about military and blowing people up and tanks. It's like all these things. It's like, okay, when I think war, I don't necessarily think funk, but he does it with such skill.
Yeah.
Now, before we even get started, I just want to ask you real quick. This is your favorite Command and Conquer game, correct?
Yeah.
Or if you had to place it somewhere.
I think Red Alert 2 was probably my favorite Command and Conquer game. But Red Alert has like a special, slot right next to it as like the one that really turned me into an RTS nut for a while.
Nice. Well, we are going to start picking songs, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there is one that's kind of overshadowing this whole album. Do you want to skip that one, sir? Or do you just want to...
I don't think we can skip Hell March.
Not skip it, but maybe give some of the other songs a chance.
We can maybe go over it briefly because it's probably the most well-known track, and if you start hearing the first bit of it, you'll know what it is. And it is weird that it kind of became the soundtrack to Red Alert, in many ways. Partially because it was in the trailer, and partially because it is such a driving song and it really sticks in your head. It really
sets the tone for the entire game.
Yeah, more than any other song in this track, it's a militaristic rock, like metal song that kind of fits you would say fits the theme better than the other songs, but I would argue that maybe there's more nuance to it. But but I mean, it starts with this marching feet, unintelligible commands being given, heavy metal guitar. I mean, it's got it all. Has a great key change in it, and it's interesting. It's kind of like the Quake theme, where it starts off with this rock, like really relatable rock song, and then fades away into this weird techno ambience to kind of fit in with the rest of the tracks.
Yeah, towards the middle, the instruments kind of drop out and the marching comes back, and there's all these war cries, like you were saying, and on that upswell, it's a much more electronic section to kind of bring it into the video game aspect. And I think basically he just remixes the main song and transforms it into that more digitized sound, and it really kind of transitions you into the actual gameplay, which I think is pretty cool.
But enough about Hell March.
Enough about Hell March. We cannot spend the entire time talking about it as much as we might want to. So I'm going to let you shoot first. What song stood out to you?
I mean, Radio is a great track. Yep. It sets that funk tone right off the bat. It's like an industrial funk song with this synth slap bass. Love that bass. I love the bass guitar in this.
It's very poppy.
And there's like a bass solo right off the bat that before even the melody starts to come in. And it has that awesome breakdown with like the rifle crack sounds that really like punches you in the face, especially when you're listening to headphones. A lot of ahs and yas. It's such a great tune.
Yeah, I like how he mixes it with very different sections that never really fail to keep you on your toes. Complete with that chanting, the sirens, that steady beat. It just keeps going, and it's a really cool tune.
The bongos.
Yeah. just
out of nowhere.
Yeah, second song we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. We've already got several instruments that strange choices, but awesome.
I wrote in, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but the siren-esque like synth sound part reminds me of Groove is in the Heart. You know that song? It's kind of weird, but I just like popped in my head.
That is awesome. I really agree with that choice. It was one of mine as well. I just think it adds to the game of strategy in a very unique way. You know, at least for me, I'm sure you do too. I'm always tapping my foot to this song. Mm-hmm. There are so many songs that capture, and I'm probably going to cover a few myself, but for me, it captures that zoning out feeling I always get when I play an RTS game where everything, you're in the pocket and you're building your base, you're sending units to go do things, you're in the middle of a battle. Like it all just flows. And I think this song does a great job of that.
And kind of interesting, at the end, it goes back to the kind of marching troops it kind of fits it back in with Hell March with the unintelligible chants. And then there's a really strong ending to the song where you're getting shot at by a machine gun. And it's great.
Yeah.
How about you?
For me, after you chose radio, I'm going to go with Crush. This one is probably the one I remember the most outside of Hell March. Really, there's like this deep repetitive note that starts the song. In comes the snare with a very funky beat. There's a deep synthesizer that acts as this accent to it. Mm-hmm. And then this sampled guitar comes in for the melody of the section. The guitar in this one is it's got like this phasing effect, which I really like. Very almost 90s R&B, I want to say. It's strange, but it works here. As the beat really continues, we're treated to a powerful interlude with a little more speed to it. It's one of my favorite sections because it's like very stutter step, really adds flair to the song that brings it a bit more urgency and power. As the title suggests, I think the instruments have that power, to crush.
Yeah.
Everything feels a little in your face and the instruments get to play a little bit.
It's probably one of the more typical techno, like drum starts, and the snare, the offbeat nature, a lot of the offbeat note hits for the snare drum, the driving techno beat, and then it kind of has a weird, not weird, but it has a fun like chill bass breakdown in the middle there. It kind of lets you breathe for a minute,
just a minute,
just enough, and then you're back on it. Yeah, it's another great track, great techno track for sure. Yeah. I really did like Run. Okay. It has this like
kind of spooky.
Yeah, it has this. I mean, the title says it all. It has this like echoing beat, some discordant guitar, and then starts to meld together into a coherent like drum beat. Melody comes in, and we're on the run. Like we're running from somebody. Eventually, the instruments mostly drop away to a hi-hat. You get the sense that we're hiding from would-be captors, you know?
Yeah. It also has this weird James Bond feel.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I equated to it. You know, there's that really groovy tune in there. I was like, okay, sounds a little spy-ish.
Yep.
So yeah, the title definitely works there.
And then they found us. And then you're back to that discordant guitar, that chaotic drum line, you know, trying to scramble away, and track fades out as we evaded our captors. And it's just a great story of a song.
I completely agree with that. I think the final third sees a lot of timpani and drum keeping it, and there's a really steady rock beat, and I like it all. Good stuff.
What about you? What's on next on your plate?
Next on my plate, I'm going to go with Rollout. It's a real synth-heavy opener, but it has a nice crisp beat that comes in. Really cool aura. I'm going to call it aura. I like to call it that. It floats between your ears from left to right. That
like ionization effect that you have.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a real fan of ambient and like ethereal sounds. So this one works for me on that level. And into the song, we get that drum beat backing a really nice lead guitar, hitting just a few notes with those sustained notes in a really fun section. It just keeps repeating those high-pitched bends. That lead guitar just adds this flair to the song that you didn't know it needed, but then when it hits, it's really cool. It's one of my favorite sections of the song. Really simple, but really effective. And then towards the end, the auras come back with the digital bass plucking away at the beat, and it continues into a lo-fi beat, comes back, and then into the original drums once more. The whole song is just kind of wishy-washy. I like it.
It's another story song. Like it the beginning I wrote down kind of has more of that original Command and Conquer soundtrack sound to it. That kind of industrial rock, techno-y with that ionization effect that happens. But then when the guitar comes in, I just wrote fucking roll out, boys. Tanks ripping through the woods, you know, chasing something. Maybe they're chasing the guy who's playing the run song.
Right. But, it's the other end of that song.
The other end of the song. And then when it kind of fades into that more that more aura sound that you're saying, it's like, you know, tanks they got to a rise in the hill, they're searching for the enemy, and then it kind of fades out. It starts a little slow, but it kind of builds and builds and builds, and it really shines.
How about you? One more song.
Can I pick one? I can only pick one.
Well, you can name them all. We'll try and fit them in. I don't want to play the whole album for the listeners.
I'm joking.
I've got two others mentioned as well, so I have to choose.
Workman is a fun one.
Correct.
I mean, slapping that bass, man.
Oh,
It
man.
is
So good.
You hear the workman welding something.
Yeah. This is almost like you're in a factory and you're just hearing this song. You know, I used to build cars in a factory, and yeah, this is pretty much it.
That's about right.
You can get that aspect out of this song very well.
Interestingly enough, Workman and Bigfoot kind of had that same you're in a manufacturing plant feel to it. Workman's a bit funkier, I think. And I said not sure how straight my welds would be with this bass line. It is what it is. You get that cool key change. He loves throwing in kind of key changes to change the mood and maybe put it into a minor key. And then the drums come in full force along with that backing long tone. And the drums kind of drown out the funk a bit. And it gets a bit more of that like really drum and bass, less bass, more drum. And but eventually the funk comes back, and then you get like a distorted guitar with a 6 snare fill, and then you hear those steam vents going. Something's being built.
Yep. And this really is one of those songs that I was talking about earlier where it's got that zone out factor for me. And I can just imagine building your bass, going about your business. It sounds very routine and like things are happening. The daily workings of the city are in full swing, and little by little, the bass is expanding and the forces are growing. You get that really manufacturing aspect of this song. And I mean, as simple as the song titles are, he really knows what he's trying to do here.
Right.
And he succeeds very well in naming his tracks.
All right.
Well, that was one of the two, so I get an out on that
made
one.
It easy
so
for you. All right.
my last choice is Militant Force. Immediately, you're chugging along. This has more direct approach to it. There's very heavy guitars. They're in the background while the bass line offers the main rhythm, and the drums are taking it away. At the middle, we have a very strong and halted machine gun moment. If you want to equate it to something, think One by Metallica. Very powerful, very quick. It sends the song into that real militaristic mindset if you hadn't already had it, and the bass is then alone to guide the song back in. As it goes on, a synth and kit pop in and out, and the bass takes it home. As a song, it captures the moment. It's easy to imagine yourself guiding a bunch of units to go destroy the enemy. It's that simple. This song is just choice. I love it.
It has that great like metal guitar chug 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 in the beginning, and leads into this industrial techno sound that has that, breaks that awesome snare fill. I love the fills, the drum fills that he does in some of these songs. It just really set the tone for the next bit of the song. And it kind of gives way to a funky bass line, and you're on your way.
Cannot go wrong with a bad bass, or with a bass line for me.
I mean, it was a bad bass line.
If it was bad. Yeah, I'm a little biased when it comes to my instruments. I'm a bass player, so I definitely enjoy a really good bass.
Well, I don't play any of the instruments that he does in this track, but I can still enjoy it. Right?
Absolutely, you can.
I think we would be remiss not to mention that this album has one of the best things that came out of the 90s, a hidden track.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's I guess it's called Surf No Mercy. That's what Google said. I guess I'll trust them. It's actually a track that plays for the like hidden game mode where you fight a bunch of killer ants.
Nice.
And it's just like a surf track, but it's also kind of like a spy thriller song as well.
Yeah.
It has that kind of classic, 60s or 70s like guitar. It's a fun little secret track. I love a good secret track.
Oh yeah.
Can't really do them nowadays.
Yeah, not quite the same landscape to give your fans secret tracks.
No.
Why is this song 38 minutes? What's happening? Why is this MP3 38 minutes? Yeah, you can't hide them like they used to.
No, can't.
That is one of the great things, actually probably the only great thing about CDs and tapes that you can't do anymore.
Yeah, you just, instead of popping it into your car CD player, you don't see the runtime on that.
Yeah. Okay, so we have covered a few songs each. We want to let the listeners investigate this album for themselves, obviously. Do you have any closing thoughts for this album? Anything that you want to put forward for the listener?
It's interesting. I hadn't really listened to this track or this soundtrack for a while, probably a decade or more.
Yeah.
Because just kind of fades out. And listening to it again, like you when I think about your memory is always a bit rusty when it comes to things in the past, and you think of Hell March and you think, oh, it's a techno track, and then listening through it again, just realizing how much there is straight funk and industrial funk and that kind of music within it, and then going back reading about Frank himself and where he came from, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I love it. I think overall the album just kicks, and his reliance on funk is the spice that the album didn't know it needed.
Yeah,
I think it's something so unexpected for the genre, and you wouldn't think it would work with it. Among everything else he writes, this is obviously a favorite for fans, and for good reason. I mean, it showcases his talents, and it fits the gameplay so well.
Yep.
And it's strange to say that,
Yeah.
I think he captures the essence of Command and Conquer with this album, and it's just an artistic album. It's just a very, very good thing, and yeah, it sets itself with that funk, I would say, apart from pretty much every other RTS out there.
There's a reason why the Command & Conquer remastered version has a full fidelity jukebox in the options menu, because all of the music is great and you want to listen to all of it. And it's
the soundtrack on this is almost a character of itself, because it's one of those games where you do talk about the music and you do talk about the gameplay almost as equals. I mean, I have never talked to anyone who doesn't mention something about the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that's not common in video games. When I started this podcast, it's about giving credit to those who, I feel go kind of under the radar and feel like they're unappreciated, because you always hear about story, graphics, whatever. But this is one of those albums that kind of does the opposite. You hear people talking about the music along with the gameplay. And Frank is a wonderful man, and he does such a good job. And we love to promote not only the sale of these iconic soundtracks, but also in this case, he is working on a new project called The Great War Western Front. It's a strategy game from Petroglyph set in World War I. Listeners should be interested to know that it is completely different in tone from the music on this album.
I saw some of the Instagram pics of his sessions there with a full orchestra recording all at once and choir.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I can't wait to listen to it.
Yep.
But anyone who's interested in his works, please hit him up at frankklepacki.com. He's kind enough to put all of his music, or at least a huge chunk of it, up for stream. So you can just kind of click on it and listen to any of the soundtracks he's worked on so far, which is really cool of him to do that because, he doesn't work for free.
Yeah.
So head over there, listen to some albums. And as a treat for our listeners, would you like to tell them what we have in store?
Oh, you mean the fact that we interviewed Frank Klepacki himself?
What? No, sir, you cannot be serious. Yes.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yes. We reached out to him, and he was gracious enough to give two schlubs the time of day and interview him on a podcast no one's heard of. Yeah. He spent some time with us, about an hour or so, and what an outstanding guy. And we will have that up for you soon.
Yeah, I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Well, final rating. What do you rate this album here?
I give it 10 army boots out of 10.
Yeah, I would give it 10 affirmatives out of 10.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks,
and you guys take care.
See you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, Another X-Files podcast for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play RPG podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple.
We're not doing that.
We certainly did. Never mind.
Try again.
Scratch that.
Check it out. Look it up.
Cut. John.
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, we like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say, we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.